and welcome to episode 20. Can you believe it? Episode number 20 of your favorite YouTube series and ours as well, Not Another Demo. We are super excited this week. This one is going to be really fun. So everybody hold on. We're going to have a great time. As always, I have with me Aaron Bragg and Anthony Coggins from the Really Bad Security crew. And we are thrilled today, honestly, to have Patrick Garrity, who is the VP of Operations from Blumira. And Blumira is a startup in the SIEM space, right? Patrick can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to change my first question. I think anyone that has watched the first 19 episodes knows I always kind of start with the same thing. But, you know, hey, 20 episodes in, I'm going to change things up a little bit. And that is, you know, Patrick, you guys have, as a company, have started and joined in what I think is a busy security space. Lots of vendors, lots of technology. Some of them have been around for a very long time. So can you, one, introduce yourself and introduce Blumira, and then maybe talk about the thought process as a startup company of going into this space and how you guys are planning on or what your thoughts are around disrupting this industry.
Yeah, it's a great question, and thanks for having me today. It's exciting to be on with you guys. Yeah, I think it is actually second time. The question you're answering, I've more or less had to address. Originally, I was at Duo for 8 years prior to Blumira, and I had known the founders of Blumira, the CEO and the CTO, for a long time, and they came out of a managed security provider, and they had hopes and dreams of building a SaaS product that automated a lot of things related to detection and response. And so they started building it, and kind of as they built it, ended up having some SIEM-like functionality, actually, which was really, really interesting. And so I met them a little over a year ago, Steve and Matt, awesome co-founders, great people to work with. And it was interesting because it's like, oh, wait, you just built a SIEM, but it doesn't look or feel anything like a SIEM. And when I started to talk to him and I talked to some of my friends, everyone's like, dude, you don't want to go in the SIEM market. There's 1,000 vendors and they all suck. And I was like, well, actually, that's what everyone told me when I went to Duo Security. Is they were like, there's 50 different two-factor vendors, RSA, Vasco, Gemalto, kind of same thing, Alien, but they were all getting acquired and consolidated, and the products hadn't changed. Yep. And so, that's more or less is like, it's like, oh, interesting. There's a huge market opportunity here because nobody likes their SIEM, or at least 75% of deployments fail. 451 Research published that, and so it's like there's an opportunity actually to do something from a different approach and service a wider market. And that's essentially the same thing or similar thing that Duo did to two-factor, is they made it accessible to all. And really similar to what we're doing is making detection response and SIEM-like capabilities accessible to the whole market without necessarily requiring deep security expertise, right?
Yeah, so I will say, and we certainly have some very good sponsors of our CSA that are in that space. So always said with peace and love. But I do feel that sometimes, and it's not just in the SIEM market, right? There are a lot of products out there where they are really geared toward from a pricing perspective, from a knowledge perspective, for the large enterprises, right? There's a couple of them represented in this call here today. Everybody, wants to go after those giant companies. So I guess talk a little bit about, the thought process, because I do know a lot of like small and medium companies have these needs and feel like stuff is way out of reach for them, both from like a cost and a technology standpoint. So can you talk a little bit through, the thought process that you guys have as far as that broader market that you're talking about?
Yeah. So first off, there are some great products in the space, and they're set more for the, hey, I have expertise, I can configure this thing and do whatever I want. I have the resources to do that. probably the most common thing, like if I think of like products out there, Splunk is a good example. Very great if you want to customize and build anything you want and do a ton of things. For most organizations, they don't have the resources to actually be able to figure out what levers to pull and what things to do to make that product successful. And that's really the challenge that we're focused more on is, hey, let's get you high fidelity detection in a way that's already, all the work's already done for you. It just takes you an hour or two worth of time. And so that's part of the aspect of making it accessible is, hey, getting to actual detection and playbooks in some form of automated responses is the goal, so you can prevent a breach or stop a breach. But the reality is most organizations lack basic detection capabilities at all across their environment. And so that, that's what's great is like time to security is what becomes important there, because they don't have 6 to 12 months to work on a project to deploy a SIEM, is more or less the reality. And it was similar at Duo Security, where like we started down market, solving the need there, doing it really quick and fast. And then you build feature sets over time that allow you to grow into the enterprise market as your product matures. And so from a route to market perspective, when you're building security, you look at a lot of these companies and they focus only on enterprise. That's actually like, that won't change the market much. But when you start small and you address the need of someone that has no skills whatsoever, that makes your product usable and potentially accessible to all. Is a lot of the theory that I think I've worked with or on validating with a lot of different people over the years.
So what did you mean by the product is to hit the ground running or ready to roll? I'm trying to remember the exact words.
Oh,
I know I have jet lag, because I was remembering those words because I was going to ask you, because one of the big things that I think the SIEM market struggle with, right, is all of them have similar products, right? They can cost a variety of different, depending, all you can eat, per user license, all that fancy stuff. In the 5 years I've been in information security, the one thing that I haven't seen, and there are some good products, you have mentioned some good products, is I haven't heard of anybody that helps you hit the ground running, right? Because especially if you're a medium-sized business, we're just going to focus on medium business. If you don't know what you have in your environment, how could you possibly, and I'm not trying to sound mean, how could you possibly get me ready to roll and hit the ground running if I don't even know what's in my environment to log?
Yeah, I think that's a great thing. So first off, we assume the only work that's going to be done by a customer is getting log ingestion set up. And that's essentially either an API connection or sending a sensor syslog. That's the only work we have to assume that they're able to do. And we actually in pre-sales have sales engineers that get on a call to walk them through that if almost all the cases, just to help them do it faster, quicker, if they don't know how. Because the reality is they only do that one time. Once that's done, then the work's completed. But what that means is we identify high fidelity data sources. So we simplify it down to endpoint, Windows and Linux hosts, where you want to collect logs for. And then there's going to be other things like identity with Active Directory, DNS, that sort of stuff, running services on that. You also have to consider you need to enable verbose logging for Windows servers. So we have a GPO template that they can just import to enable all the great things that aren't by default, so you can get higher fidelity. And then we'll make recommendations. We can't force someone to install Sysmon, but we can recommend it, or Windows Defender, for example. Also, we always recommend, and most customers have an EDR, so a Carbon Black, CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, AMP, go down the list, Windows Defender. So we'll integrate and ingest there as well. Then you have your cloud infrastructure stack, which is Azure, and productivity suites, Office 365, G Suite, Azure, we're adding AWS, for instance, and then firewalls. And then there's like additional beneficial integrations that we do have if you have those technologies. But like, if we ingest and get that stuff, we can give you some pretty high fidelity capabilities that cover most of your environment, that also help you meet compliance requirements a lot of times from a retention perspective. And so it meets kind of all these different angles of a typical profile business of, hey, let's try and help stop a ransomware attack, and let's help you meet compliance while doing that.
Now, how do you go
helpful.
about helping us sift through all that, right? Because I wanna go back to the point where you talked about endpoints, you talked about cloud, you talked about firewall logging, which by itself, as Anthony and I both know, is so much data.
Yeah.
For a medium-sized business, if I don't have a security team of, I'm not talking about my healthcare system. We do have a little bit more than 15 people. But let's just say we got 5 people, right? That's a ton of data, and everyone says, and I don't want you to take these questions personal. These are just my analyst side coming out. Everybody says that they can help sift through alert fatigue, right? Another marketing term, alert fatigue. Well, it's a marketing term because there is a lot of truth to it. We're going to solve it with UEBA or even UBA or EBA or whatever marketing terms are out this week.
Are you gonna say what all those are? Or
and you
look at Aaron just rolling through acronym soup right there, my man.
I didn't get a chance to. End user behavior, user something like
user entity behavior analytics,
which I hate. Who made that one? Too. I really want to just accidentally spill my beer on who made that. That one makes no sense. These are end user behavior.
Yeah, and so I mean, I think to add some color to Breck's question is, what you guys fully managed, like, I don't know, do you guys call yourself SIM? Because you're not really, right? I mean,
yes and no. Okay. Like people search for it, so yes, we call ourselves SIM, and they have requirements for SIM, so yes, but we do much more than that. And so I think to break it down on the questions you're asking, the product was purposely built on GCP, fully containerized, right? Where we're ingesting all this stuff. So we're basically like, hey, let's get ingesting. We do that pre-sales. We do that during the sales process. Takes about an hour to 2 hours of the customer time total. And we demonstrate the threats we will identify from a high fidelity perspective to show them. And mainly, like if you look at a ransomware attack, right? To give you an example, once that data hits us, we ingest it, we parse it, we correlate threat intelligence, and then we apply detection rules and have playbooks or automated actions automatically full stack end to end tied to everything we build. So there is no work to do, and it repeats across in a SaaS environment to all customers. And that's the value that essentially scales across the board to organizations of any size. And then we do have in-product interaction built right now where you can interact on a detection, for example. So if you have questions and you don't know what to do, because most of our customers aren't security deep analyst specialists, they can actually say, hey, I'm not sure what to do here. Can you guys help me or provide some more advice?
But is that capability not, again, I don't want to pin you against the SIM because that's not, your core.
Oh, you can.
I'm intrigued now.
So like can I do some of those, threat hunting and log searching functionalities in your platform, or do I have to go through you to say like, hey, I want to look at firewall logs, from X amount of time. Can you pull those for me? Or is that something I can do, searches for myself?
Yeah. When I first got to Blumira, there was no reporting, and it was kind of black boxed, right? It was like, hey, here's an alert, go look into it and take care of it. We built our reporting. There's still some room to go there, but today you can report on any of the logs that are ingested, right? And sift through that to find what you want.
Okay.
A lot of the customers don't know how to look through logs because it's complicated as well. Like, oh, what field am I looking for? What of the 100 IP addresses with the label am I actually trying to understand and find?
Yeah.
And so that is where like our team, and part of it is we learn how to change the product to actually work better for our customers, but our team will interact and actually even build that report if they're like, hey, I don't know what to do, or I need this report to be able to help with this. And then we can then replicate that and share that report with other customers, right?
Right.
From a value perspective. So yeah, I think the question is like, you know, someone that sophistication we don't allow anybody to build their own rule sets today. It's very low customization. So the more sophisticated security person that's going to want and ask for threat hiding requirements, deep analysis, correlating.
Should probably just get a SIEM, right?
Yeah, they probably should go, you know, should consider. The question is though, a lot of those people don't have the resources, and especially in small to mid-sized companies, they're one or two people. So what they end up doing is they put a solution in place that when they leave, ends up just being a black box of nothingness.
Or
and so like
or whatever.
Yeah, so they end up actually doing a disfavor to the company as well,
Yeah.
and put them in a really bad spot long term. And so yeah, we generally speaking, it's like, yeah, a large hospital system with 25,000 employees, like, hey, look, like unless you want to try us to see how this would work complementary to the other things you want to be doing, you probably should go buy a Splunk, right? Is you know, training our sales team and our engagement team to have those conversations. But if you want to detect real threats from a ransomware perspective, so like external RDP exposure, very common, like 30% of our POCs identify RDP on the internet. Other example would be like Cobalt strikes on Windows hosts, password spraying, like domain administrators created. And when I ask those questions to a small to medium-sized business, if you can detect any of these, 95% of the time, you know what the answer is?
I don't know.
You can guess.
Right,
No.
yeah.
And so
let's dive into that part real quick, because I want to make sure I'm understanding right, because I think I see why Matt wanted us to get in here. So you're able to, this isn't a one-way task, right? Like if I'm understanding right, you have the ability to take actions on those alerts. So your API goes both ways. So I'm ingesting data, but then I can push back and tell whatever your endpoint is, McAfee, Windows Defender, whatever, I want you to do X with this information.
That's a great question. So yes and no. We don't have yeah.
I was getting excited. That's it. I'm out of here.
Hey, so I'll be clear. And Jim Simpson, VP of product, was the head of product at Duo Security recently. So moving forward, we are focused on exposing APIs. We don't have any API access today, and that's okay. I think combination of like, we are very high fidelity from a detection perspective.
Right. And if you're being paying you, I expect you to mostly just handle it, right? Or have your automation handle it.
In some cases, now we're more of a SaaS tool that's surfacing risk for you to take action than we're not taking action for customers. There is a caveat there where we are focused on the automation piece. What we do today is via a dynamic block list on firewalls. So that basically integrates with our tools. So if we detect anything like password spraying on a VPN, it would automatically put that rule in the block list. Or if we detect bad IP addresses or other types of threats, we would ingest that and put it on a dynamic block list to automatically block, or you can one click to block.
Right.
The other use cases, which is more purpose built, is like that will go down the stack. We're not there yet, but like most people want to like containerize themselves. A high risk threat on EDR, for example, would be next level. But like most customers in our profile aren't going to build out their own automation. I think as our product matures, we'll probably do some of that stuff, which will expand us into the enterprise more. But today we don't have an API or webhook yet. that would allow you to build that out yourself. But we're talking, I mean, the profile customer we're talking with, like, most of them have they don't even have visibility into this stuff. So like in 2 hours worth of time, just getting aware of that stuff in high fidelity, so it's not a ton of
That's
noise.
fair. That's
Right.
fair.
That's
I gotta give you some softball ones from time to time. But so to be clear, it's good that you guys are honest with yourselves about that, right? Because a lot of the times what, you know, the three of us are seeing is when you have a startup that has a good product and they move quickly, and then they want to scale, they want to be, you know, have the $100 million IPO, and they want to be, you know, everything to everybody. To me, that's where a lot of these startups are losing steam. They're losing focus on the market that they want to target. And you are right. There's a market for this with medium-sized businesses that don't have a giant team. Where I was getting a little hopeful on the taking action is because if you're really targeting those small and medium businesses, that's when they're going to need help on the stuff that Anthony's talking about, right? Like I could see a situation where Anthony's, you know, Acrisure, they're doing mergers even more than my crazy healthcare company. It would be nice to be able to plant you guys, right? Like, so we're going to be taking over insurance company Z. So the first thing I'm going to do, right, is just plop you guys in there before we even connect anything, right? Because a lot of medium-sized businesses don't understand the downside to like PCI compliance. They might say, hey, you know, we don't do we don't take credit cards, we don't do X, Y, and Z. But in this day and age, they don't, you know, they may find out that they have, you know, something somewhere that does connect to something. You then connect that network to your network. Guess what? If there's an issue over there, you're not PCI compliant now. So that's where I was going of like, how could, you know, could your product be used preemptively, right? To be able to say, hey, we're going to take you and your SaaS, we're going to drop it in their environment to do alerting and everything else before we even let our networks touch.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a really interesting use case that I see often, which is like, yeah, we don't know what we don't know. We have no visibility today, which is reality. And I've been on the acquisition side, on the other side too, where the people are like, I had a friend reach out to me that's going through acquisition. They're like, they were all scared. They're like, they gave us this security form. Should I just say yes to everything, even though we don't do it? And I'm like, no, be honest, right? Like, that's the worst thing you can do is lie. And even in going to market, it's like, I don't want to sell our product to someone that it's not a fit for. That just makes it harder on our business to scale,
right. Yeah. I mean,
and build useful things.
And you're struggling as well with that then too, because if your engineers are wasting cycles on this business that doesn't fit your model, then you know, that's a detriment on both sides. So
yeah, so you have to in confidence say, hey, no, we're not a fit right now. Like, let's continue the conversation. If you want to try it in these guardrails of what we do, we'd love that. And we say that to a lot of people, and sometimes they're like, let's go for it. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, wow, you identified a bunch of things that we didn't know about. But I have had conversations too with organizations that hired 2 different outsourced SOCs, have 3 different SIMs, and they still have no sense of the world of what's going on. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity of companies of all sizes, a ton of opportunity, just generally speaking, because you see it so often that they're failing, and it's unfortunate. So
Aaron, you've been begging and pleading with a vendor to be honest. We found one. So you have to be an immediate.
Some others. They've been honest, but there's a difference between being selectively honest. So it is refreshing, and I'm sure it's got to be like bittersweet, right? Because most of these startups, they're getting their VC funding from somewhere, right? Like, you know, we don't have. I wish I had just like $100K lying around, right, for me to start up my own, you know, risk management business, but I would. So I do understand that there's, you know, everybody's got somebody to be beholden to. But I think part of the problem with the security industry right now is the fact that there's a race to get money from average, you know, security vendors. and the government still doesn't have its poop in a group. When I say government, I mean local, state, and federal still don't have their poop in a group when it comes to helping small and medium businesses be more secure. So we're in this weird situation. It's 2021. I can't believe I'm having the same conversation that I'm having from 5 years ago, and that's got nothing to do with your company. So I do like the idea of helping them understand risk slower, bite-sized chunks, so that they can, they can make decisions around it. Because a lot of times with a medium-sized business, you don't even know where your data is at, right?
Yep.
So you have to take a more holistic approach.
Yeah, I think twofold there. Like, one is on the customer side, like, some of our early customers are cities and counties that had absolutely nothing and no visibility, right? So I don't think government's one that's going to lead any of this, frankly, well, and they've tried to for 10 years. And if you expect anything different, then I think like, it's funny. I mean, I had a CMMC conversation on like, well, we're not really sure if we can use a product that doesn't do X, Y, and Z from a federal perspective. And it's like, that's going to add no security value. That's just checking boxes, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So I think, I think that's one thing to think about. But yeah, I think particularly like getting to security value for these small to medium-sized organizations is what's impactful. What's really pushing the needle is the amount of incidences and breaches going on between like wire transfers, ransomware, and all this stuff that's costing money. And not only the money cost, it's also their businesses are getting shutting down. So those are the things that actually force the needle for somebody to do something. At the same time, there's companies I've talked to that just had an incident that costed them $500K and they're still not willing to spend $50K on security. I really can't help that.
I think sound like any local West Michigan businesses that you know.
I don't know. No, none.
Neither confirm nor deny anything.
Hey, unfortunately, like, I think a lot of times the IT and security are recommending these things and getting shot down by senior leadership. And I think also there's business conditions that happen where they don't have they don't have the money, or they're struggling, and affording a solution to deal with it too is another big part of the equation. And so yeah, there's a lot of kind of look of like, where should I spend money, and am I allowed to? Are the situations people get put in. And so I empathize a lot with that as well.
Yeah, I think you made, so there was a string of great points there. So, I mean, because I think that particular issue is multifaceted, right? There's a lot of, managers and CISOs, executives that I've talked to, they're like, I have spent all the money, I've bought all the stuff, and I'm still getting, I'm still having issues, or I'm still not feeling secure, or, the last 5 products that we bought didn't get utilized. So I do think there's some fatigue from an executive standpoint on some of this stuff as well, especially when you're maybe talking about, hey, we purchased a product and it took us 1.5 years to get any value out of it. And those are, big financial decisions for executives at companies of all sizes that are difficult for them to make. So, I think there's that side of it. On the flip side, I think we are starting to see, with, and you mentioned it in there, Patrick, of sometimes for us, if you're a large enterprise, right, and you get hit and it's $1 million or it's whatever it is, chances are pretty slim that you're going to shut down operations, right? You're going to recover from it. You're going to pay what you've had to pay. You're going to deal with it somehow, do the PR thing. You're going to overcome it, right? There are some retail chains that are still doing just fine after some massive breaches over the last few years. Small and medium-sized businesses, though, I mean, we've seen some here in West Michigan get hit with something and they just close the doors because it's actually easier for them to just shut down and call it quits than it is to recover from this stuff. And then if you look at, what I see from a product standpoint is either these off the shelf, you buy them, download them off a website, and they're geared for little teeny tiny organizations, or there's products that are really geared for the massive enterprises. And I think a lot of times those medium-sized companies get lost in that
Get
shuffle.
lost
You
in
know,
the
I've
shuffle.
heard, you know, I've seen quotes go for some of these products go in front of a CISO or a CIO, and they go, well, that's literally my entire security budget for the whole year, or that's my security budget for the next 2 years. Are you telling me your one product is worth my budget for the next 2 years? So I feel like there's a lot there, and that middle child, right, is the one that sometimes gets very overlooked in this equation.
Yeah. And I agree with you. And I think like what I see is kind of 4 things from a security operations perspective of like products people need that are core. 2-factor authentication, which a lot of times is free. Like people a lot of times just don't even deploy it because like it's an inconvenience is what I've heard many times over. They don't know, or they don't know they own it, right? Can be the other one. I think that having effective detection and response like Blumira, SIM plus type of functionality is a key. EDR, endpoint detection response, which like, hey, even Microsoft has Defender for free nowadays. And then the 4th thing is vulnerability scanning, at least having an awareness of like what risk you have. Like, so I see managed service providers that are packaging Blumira doing kind of like a suite of those things. And I do also believe that MSPs have an opportunity to actually take over managed security that traditionally they haven't in this small to medium size area. That is one of the routes to market that we have in partnering, because not everyone even has the resources to respond and take action to alerts. And they want someone else to do that for them. And they also want to have them manage other things as well. So I've seen that work effectively on the managed service provider side as well. And you can add if there's other things you think small businesses should have, but and I think there's more to it, but I think simplifying that down to those 4 things makes it kind of easy of like, yeah, these are 4 great projects that are going to make tangible impact.
Right.
I think that helps to the point that Anthony was talking about is you almost have to figure out what you want to do with your own security program, right? Because, we've run into issues with MSPs before where we're like, hey, they'll take over like, this tier 1 support so we can get our socket focused on other things. Then you run into the nightmare that Anthony talked about. Hey, I want to just dig in a little bit deeper on this. Oh, wait a minute. I don't have access to my logs anymore because my logs are going to the tier 1 support. And then I got to put in a ticket to the tier 1 support to get that data back so that I could do it. So that's a whole, different beast, right?
Yeah. And I like Kevin from Merit Networks, his tout on Blumira is it's like, hey, this is the first product I've used where like the help desk team is interacting with the security team on the same tickets, right? Like that's tangible. We actually brought 2 different groups together and they're able to make impact. And we hear that type of stuff all the time. The last thing I would say is the ability to actually try and use a product. Half our customers half the companies we work with don't have budget. They also don't know how to get more budget. So the first thing we do is we're like, hey, just deploy the product and we're going to have immediate tangible recommendations, actions, and detections that then we can go to your executive team and say, hey, look, we should take this a little bit more seriously. And in doing that exercise, then now we've helped them to actually get budget and get better controls in place. And so that's another angle is like that approach works in the SMB and mid-market.
Savings,
it's just not that
you're talking numbers, and that's the language that they can understand, right? So a good example would be can your product do this? And then if it does it well enough, I may be able to use to your point, a free version of this, or maybe the built-in version of this software. And then I don't have to worry about that licensing, right? So there's that 10 grand or, paraphrasing, 10 grand saved. Now that can come in and help pay for this particular product for a certain amount of time.
Yep. Yeah, that approach works too. I mean, consolidation of tool stacks of like SIEM, even IT tasks like, oh, wow, now I have all my Windows event logs in one place. I don't have to go log into hosts and try and figure that stuff out. Like there's a lot of tangible use cases that people find in our product that weren't even intended or purpose built, which is pretty interesting.
See, I think a lot of times, you know, and this is a struggle, which we talk about endlessly, of, you know, security people really struggling selling some of these projects upstream because, you know, we're talking at it from a security standpoint. They're looking at things from a risk and a cost standpoint, and those two don't always mesh together. So I like the idea of, you know, going to those executive level or decision makers with real tangible stuff, right? And being able to put some of those risk conversations together and go, look, hey, we might be a medium-sized business that manufactures, you know, widgets.
Car parts.
There's got to be another, right? Widgets, so overused. That manufactures skateboards. But, you know, we have some, you know, here's some risk, here's some threats, here's some stuff we've seen, you know, this is the liability that we could have. That's a different conversation that you can have, right? And if you can back that up with some real information, I think that's more powerful. So I like the idea that you guys are helping the security teams formulate those conversations, because if there was an area of security that I think security people struggle with the most, is that talking to the business, right? At our threat panel, we talk that's going to be like our next shirt. Talk to the business. So I like that. So Patrick, I also like to have some conversations, and I think this is especially interesting as a startup of, you know, what is it like working with Blumira both, and we've hit on it a little bit, like from a pre-sales standpoint, what does that motion look like? Then, you know, kind of what does the POC or POV type process look like? And then as a company, especially as, you know, as a young company, what is your strategy of post-sales and staying connected to your customers and ensuring that they're getting the value out of their purchase?
Yeah, I'd say all of it's top of mind, and really great questions. I think first off is like, you know, getting them to try the product is the number one thing we know is the most successful. And so I think the initial is like, whether they're coming to us or we have a conversation through different things, it's like, just try it, similar to what we did at Duo, because we know once they try the product, 80% of the time they end up buying because it surfaces real value, even if they don't have budget, because it justifies budget is what I would say there. So for us, the fact that we can tangibly prove in a market that can't do that, like there's no other vendor I'm aware of that deploys full stack SIEM detection response capabilities end to end in a 1 to 2 hour period of time and proves out value. Now, sometimes we don't detect anything immediately, but over the first week or two, we'll really start to surface some things that make tangible impact or bring risk to the organization. So, you know, that's one thing. So we have sales engineers literally that get on the first call with the prospect or customer and help them understand how easy this is and to try it. And then they literally take that and continue that conversation through maybe 1 or 2 or 3 touch points. I've had customers that deploy as quick as like an hour to 2 hours and buy within a day or two. Some have longer processes. Those situations are compliance, security driven, all sorts of stuff a lot of times in that regard, where there's a huge sense of urgency. And then, you know, the ongoing life cycle, we just added something called customer success, and we have a technical account manager that we just added.
Like hot lately. Is that, sorry, I'm not meaning to pick on you, but
No.
it seems like everybody is coming up with customers.
But it's smart though, because again, and I know I've said this before, but 99% of the time when I see somebody ripping out one product to replace it with another one, it's not because of technology, it's because of service and support and the interactions that they have with that vendor. So I think it's pretty important. Yeah.
Hey, and one thing I would say there too is like there's a difference between the customers we've onboarded recently in the past 6 months versus the customers that started when we initially built the product, right? What happens
That's what
is
I want
those,
to hear about.
yeah,
That's the
those
success.
the early customers, right? Like they get success, but they don't realize all this new stuff that we built that they then don't adopt too, right? So you have to go back to them and make sure they actually adopt this new stuff that exists because they don't even know about it, frankly, sometimes. And so like, yeah, in December, we brought on Dave Begley as our first TAM to both engage with the existing customer sets, but also help with onboarding to make sure they're successful really quickly, right? And so we get to initial success in POC, but it's still like sometimes you got to drag people along to like make sure they ingest their logs or apply a GPO so you get to that full value. And it's more the customers that get in the way because they have so many other things to do. It's not intentional, right? But having a touch point regularly with them to make sure that they're making progress is what's important there, is what I found. And we did the same thing at Duo, right? Is like, yeah, it does work out of the box, but if you don't at least have conversations in a somewhat like quarterly fashion with people, they tend to miss what comes out, what's new, and getting the full value out of the capabilities of the product over time. And so I think with any product, it's important that you do have those ongoing touch points so you can track the success of a customer.
But I think that's where you guys might have an advantage, right? With being a new startup, is so many times we see it where, you know, the salespeople come in, they have pre-sales engineering, you know, this is where I hate commission, right? Like you get the companies come in, they have a great product, like Matt says, sales commission, bam, like, you know, I'll do the obligatory 90-day touch base, how everything's going, and then they're gone, right?
Yep.
Or in the security vendor industry, I'm ranting for a minute, is you have those reps flipping every 18 months, right? So I don't even have time as a healthcare system to build a rapport with salespeople because they're going to different organizations. So security vendors as a whole, you know, need to get their poop in when it comes to commission, because it's that brand. If you want me to re-up 2 years from now, treat me like a customer now. And if I don't have time, then politely come back around, because then at the end of the contract, at least I know it's not because of you or your customer service. It's because I haven't made that particular thing a priority.
Yeah, I think you gotta build a good product. You gotta train your sales team well on how to qualify in and out and make sure it's a fit, right? And then I think separating sales revenue generating activities as a primary focus, and then customer success, and having people that are focused on making sure customers get adoption is key.
I mean, look at Apple, right? Look at Apple.
Yeah.
Why does Apple?
Genius bar.
Why is still
right?
Yes? Because the Genius bar. I've seen people that are first-time iPhone buyers and people that have had MacBooks 10 years, but it's that customer service part that they know and they understand and they trust. And that's why you have that product for a long time.
Yep, exactly. I mean, that's the model most organizations should be working to build. The reality is, I think there is a lot of like sell a product and you never hear from or see from the vendor again.
Yep. Sell a product, move on. Yeah. So as we're talking kind of about that part of it, the one thing that comes up always in conversations and talking in this space is licensing models and ingestion versus per person per whatever. And Aaron kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. So can you talk a little bit about how Blumira works from a licensing standpoint as well?
Yep. Number one is like make it easy for customers to do business. The number one you can make it easy is make it predictable. Right. And I would say as an early stage startup, having flexibility as well and not hardlining, hey, we only do business this way and there's no consideration. What I mean by that is like, yeah, we license based on what we call information worker or user. And so it's like, well, yeah, manufacturer, we're not going to penalize them because they have a bunch of people on a line. we're going to basically come to an agreement and say, hey, look, like you have 10,000 employees, which we you know, a good example on our website that we have is Fanuc Robotics, but like charging them for what they actually have from an information worker perspective.
Charging
And that's
them
more
for
a conversation.
9,000 factory workers, right?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense, right? And so, you know, I just try and emphasize there, like, we try and make it easy to do business with those exceptions, right? And most of our customers, a lot of them are in underserved markets, manufacturing, cities, states, healthcare, all these great different entities that don't that sometimes have these circumstances. So we do it straight by user, fixed cost annually. You can't build a predictable model based on consumption. It just doesn't work for most organizations. They don't have time to figure that out and do the math. They're not data scientists.
Well, nobody, I mean, it's really hard to even predict that, right? Like, okay, well, what's your messages per second? Like, I mean, I have no idea. Like,
hey, we can outperform with our architecture almost any other SIEM vendor on that metric, but we're not selling on that metric, or we don't promote that because most our target demographic doesn't even know what that means.
Yeah, right.
And that's okay. I mean, that's the reality. So.
Okay,
Awesome
man.
stuff.
I see why you had us as we're going up against it. I see why you had Anthony I sit in, because maybe there's hope for the security vendor space after all. Because we have interviewed a couple of startups. Like you guys, it sounds like a very promising product. Sneak, another one. There's some good startups coming up. So
what I feel like has happened is some people that have been in the industry, and maybe some of the others have seen, you know, like how things work and don't, that are joining in or creating these startups. And I do feel like there is a really, creative, fun, imaginative, group of companies that are heading our way. Blumira, certainly one of them. So Patrick, I want to thank you for joining us. I've been looking forward to this one for weeks since we scheduled it, and it was a great conversation. So I really appreciate you joining us and having this conversation with us today. If you're a small to medium business that is trying to figure this space out and you just can't, take a look at what they're doing. I think this is pretty cool stuff. We'll have, I got to do the YouTube stuff. So we'll have some information in the comments. Please like and subscribe and share and do all of that fun stuff as well. Fellas, thank you as always. And we'll see everybody for episode 21. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, all.